Looking back, I should have recognized the subtle warning signs long before we reached the coastal estate that evening. When your own brother invites you to a massive celebration but ignores your text messages for weeks leading up to it, you ought to know something is deeply wrong. Yet I allowed myself to believe that family love would always triumph over petty social climbing, ignoring the sinking feeling in my chest during the entire drive. My name is Valerie Miller, and my husband Grant and I had spent over 4 exhausting hours on the highway with our 2 young kids, Chloe and Toby. Grant was dressed in his customary comfortable attire, wearing a well-worn flannel shirt, dark jeans, and leather boots that had seen better days. He looked like the grounded, modest freelance photographer he claimed to be, perfectly content in his own skin, while I wore a simple silk dress. When we finally pulled our 8-year-old station wagon into the winding driveway of the massive oceanfront mansion, the staggering displays of wealth immediately made me uneasy. Fleet lines of pristine luxury sports cars occupied the cobblestone entrance, gleaming under the bright golden terrace lights. My young son pressed his face against the window in absolute awe, completely unaware that this extravagant venue was merely a rented backdrop for my brother's high society performance. The moment we stepped onto the crowded patio, the overwhelming scent of high-end perfume and fine champagne hit us like a brick wall. Guests draped in tailored designer evening wear laughed effortlessly, holding delicate crystal glasses while enjoying the crisp night breeze. My daughter reached up to clutch my hand tightly, instantly picking up on the thick aura of snobbery that filled the air, making us feel completely out of place. A sleek event supervisor carrying a leather clipboard stopped us cold at the front entrance, her gaze sweeping over our modest attire with evident disapproval. After scanning her list with an icy silence, she quietly escorted us past the glowing VIP lounge where my younger brother Austin was holding court. Austin glanced in our direction for a split second, but instead of walking over to greet us, his expression twisted with sudden shame. Without saying a word to his own family, my brother turned his back on us and returned to conversing with his wealthy circle. The coordinator guided us far away from the main dance floor, depositing our small family at a cramped table tucked beside the busy kitchen doors. Fluorescent light spilled out from the kitchen service entrance, casting a harsh glare over our tiny table while waiters rushed past us without offering any food. My husband remained surprisingly calm, pulling out chairs for the kids while maintaining a relaxed posture that disguised his sharp awareness. Grant had spent years studying human behavior through his camera lens, learning how to analyze people without ever drawing attention to himself.
While I sat there swallowing my pride for the sake of my brother event, I could see Grant quietly cataloging every subtle insult, his jaw tightening just enough to signal danger. It did not take long before Austin's prospective bride, a fastidious woman named Vanessa, strutted toward our obscure corner with a fake smile. She wore a sparkling gown that probably cost more than our household grocery budget for the entire year, radiating condescension with every step. Vanessa greeted us with a sugary tone that barely masked her deep disdain for our modest lifestyle, instantly treating us like unwelcome charity cases. Vanessa looked down her nose at my daughter's vintage sweater before making a subtle remark about how our rustic living choices were wonderfully charming. She openly patronized my nonprofit career, implying that working for a meaningful cause was merely a comforting cover for failing in the corporate world. Grant spoke up gently to defend my professional achievements, but Vanessa simply laughed it off before walking away to gather an audience of her friends. Minutes later, Vanessa returned with a small group of snickering guests to show off the eccentric relatives who lived far out in the countryside. When my hungry son asked if he could try some of the gourmet appetizers circulating the patio, Vanessa crouched down and publicly humiliated him. She announced to everyone nearby that the boy possessed an unrefined palate, offering to have the kitchen cook him basic, greasy fast food instead. I immediately put my foot down, refusing to let her shame my son for simply wanting to enjoy the food at a family party. Vanessa rolled her eyes and drifted away, leaving a lingering cloud of heavy judgment hanging over our dark little table. My poor children were shrinking in their seats, feeling the cruel sting of rejection from the very relatives who were supposed to welcome them with open arms and love. The painful situation escalated into complete nightmare territory when my 9-year-old daughter returned from the restroom in silent tears. She trembled as she explained how several older girls had openly mocked her worn leather shoes, asking if we gathered our clothes from donation bins. Hearing my daughter's voice break ignited a white-hot rage within me. pushing me past the absolute limit of my emotional tolerance. Vanessa materialized out of nowhere to witness the distress, immediately siding with the bullies by claiming high society children simply maintained higher standards. She casually suggested that I should have dressed my kids better to avoid embarrassing everyone present at such a prestigious gathering. That cruel comment was the final straw, breaking whatever patience I had left for my brother's grand celebration and his arrogant fiancée. I prepared to storm out of the venue, but before I could take a step, my quiet husband stood up to his full height. The relaxed demeanor Grant had maintained all evening vanished instantly, replaced by an intense authority that made the surrounding guests fall completely silent. He calmly retrieved his smartphone from his coat, laid it on the table, and informed Vanessa that she did not actually own this property. Grant revealed that the entire private estate had been purchased earlier that week by his family private investment trust, making him the actual owner. My brother rushed over in a sudden panic as Grant coolly explained that their upcoming lease renewal was now entirely at our mercy. Standing beside my family with renewed pride, I realized that true strength comes from protecting the people you love, regardless of how others judge your worth.